Welcome to the Sports Bubble, a production of iHeartRadio and Treefort Media. My name is Jensen Karp, and I'm a sports fan. And I'm just as into jersey swaps. If you don't know what I'm talking about, well, then you don't watch games long enough. Because at the way end, two players from opposing teams, seen mostly in the NBA and NFL, will exchange jerseys, probably to hang in their game room and show off during an episode of MTV Cribs in 2002. I mean, Dwayne Wade exchanged jerseys with someone after every game during his final season, and Brandon Marshall claims to have traded like 200 for his collection. But new COVID rules in the NFL say that this is one of the many things that has to go in the upcoming year. So let's get this straight. Dudes could run at each other at full speed, slam into one another with spit flying everywhere. But as far as passing each other a piece of clothing, no, that's where we draw the line. Dude, none of this makes sense. Which is why I'm still interviewing athletes and sports industry professionals today for my 50th episode, finding out how they're doing during this very weird time. Because someone has to. This is the Sports Bubble with Jensen Karp. The MLS is back. And if you didn't know that, well, the league named their return games in Orlando, Florida, the MLS is Back tournament. And if you heard our recent episode with Bradley Wright Phillips, you know that most players aren't exactly excited with this attempt at normalcy. So, with the tournament starting this week, and now with two teams removed for positive tests, I want to check in with another player. This time, Sebastian Lletget from the rival LA Galaxy, currently hunkered down in a hotel room, only leaving the confines of his bed and scratch pad when it's time to practice or play. He started his career at 17 after being scouted by West Ham United, then playing a few years with them in the Premier League, an experience that involved him getting mono and seeing a whole lot of intensity as a teen. He then signed to the Galaxy and joined Major League Soccer in 2015 and has become one of the most reliable and marketable elements of the squad. He's also a U.S. national team midfielder who's played all over the globe. But inside a Disney World bubble? Well, that's a new one. In this episode, I speak to Sebastian about the latest at the happiest place on earth, the racism he saw in the sport overseas, and we play a game where we see if he actually knows the song titles from his girlfriend, singer and actress Becky G. It's a contest that can either make or break the bond of love. And in another installment of FANDEMIC, I talked to my friend, AEW announcer Excalibur, a man already in a mask every day, to see how the virus and wrestling industry's outing of sexual abusers has affected his experience at work. Games are in full effect now, so it's time we go into the sports bubble.
Call from
Sebastian Lletget.
To accept, press 1.
Hello, Sebastian.
Hi, what's up?
How's it going, man? I know you're busy, so I appreciate you getting on the phone with me today.
No. Say no. Thanks for having me, man. It's good to speak to you.
Good. Well, I'm very excited. I know you are currently in Orlando getting ready for the MLS's Back tournament that kicks off technically tonight, fingers crossed. How long have you been in Florida now?
So, yeah, we got in on Monday. I've lost track of days so far. I mean, even in the short time that I've been here. But I believe it's Wednesday.
Yes.
If I'm not mistaken. And I mean, it's been very, very interesting. I mean, unfortunately, our training today got called off because of thunder and lightning and the strong rain. So that was kind of a weird. Obviously, it has nothing to do with COVID, but I guess just where we are as far as locations. But the rooms have been okay. The hotel, obviously, I mean, the fact that they got this all together in a short amount of time is obviously pretty impressive. But yeah, it's I guess I'll find out more as the days come.
I will tell you too, like, it's so crazy that you now have to put up with thunder and lightning after COVID. I mean, it's like, when will any of these sports catch a break?
It's incredible.
So tell me about traveling to Orlando. What was that like on Monday? How did you get there? How did they make sure that you got from the airport to the hotel safely? If you can explain that process.
Yeah, I mean, as far as our administrator, Zach, him organizing and being kind of our go-to leader as far as organizing everything, telling us, where to go, following all the protocols. It was fairly simple and especially for us, as athletes, we don't do well with all the complicated processes. So it was very simplified for us. And, it wasn't too bad. The flight was okay. We flew private and it was nice. Everything else up to that point. Obviously, I think the most unsettling part was just knowing that unfortunately there is cases that have been coming up positive in the bubble. Mm-hmm. I think that was the most, coming into the hotel, it's just very what are we walking into, and as of now, nobody's tested positive, and so I guess that is a positive
Yeah.
in a way.
Yeah.
But just getting, from the airplane onto the bus and just getting us here. It was kind of like your ordinary way of just, when we play as a visiting team to another, in another city, we are kind of like a regular protocol in that sense. But again, I guess just the most unsettling part was just knowing that you're kind of walking into some uncertain territory.
Yeah, and they appear to be doing a lot right, but like you said, the FC Dallas had to pull out of the tournament for 11 positive tests.
Right.
That's supposedly before the bubble, and then we heard now Nashville and the Chicago game for opening night was postponed. I mean, I'm not saying that you have to walk around in like a hazmat suit, but you guys are definitely. Are there things you're doing to be careful?
I think personally, a lot of us, I know a lot of guys around the league, through national team, through, guys I played with. And we were all, I think in the very, very beginning when it was greenlit, that this was happening, we were very excited. We're like, oh, at least we're going to have each other. We can hang around. And I think now, moving forward, we're like, dude, like, stay in your room.
Right.
Don't, I love you, but like, you just don't know. I guess the problem is the incubation period, that even if you have it, you don't even really know, before you even have any symptoms. So I think that's the main problem, is that we all could, or someone could have it, but they're not showing absolutely anything. And they're probably coming up negative because it's just the way the virus works. So it's like, that's the part that really sucks. It's not even what we thought it could be off the field. So that's that's definitely a downer.
How often are you guys being tested now?
So when we got here immediately, and then we were quarantined until the next day, and then had like a midday testing again. So then after that, after you come up negative twice, you'll then be able to kind of walk around the hotel and sort of just kind of do your own thing and be a little bit more free. Mm-hmm. Even though I think anybody even did that, but you have the access to. And I believe we're getting tested tomorrow. So I think it's every other day. I'm kind of learning as I go, to be honest with you, because I think it's, there's a lot of that. There's nothing really set in stone.
Well, you kind of mentioned it. You guys are in the Swan and Dolphin Hotel at Disney World. Is it just all players, or are you just walking around and when you get back, it's pretty much all you guys?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I guess that's nice. It seems that, there is a lot of space because, it is us. And I think for the most part, everybody's kind of in the room anyways. There's not even a lot of people in sight, to be honest with you. It's not like what you'd think, everybody's, I think, keeping their distance for now.
Yeah. What are you doing when you're not playing or practicing? Like, are you just in your room on your phone? And
Well, like today with the Thunder and then the Lightning, we kind of got canceled, kind of threw our schedule a little bit off. We just had lunch. There's a little bit of a coffee bar here that a couple of my teammates just went to. So we had a coffee there. A little bit of normality, I guess, doing our best. But I mean, for the most part, you don't have much. I mean, we have little lounges, but you can only get so much of ping pong.
Sebastian, I'm going to be honest. This sounds terrible. What is going on? I can't get this.
Yeah, it's tough, man. I mean, I think we've all gone to the point, or we've gone over the point of like, okay, we're going to be away from our families. I think at this point, it's just, we know we're going to be here for a while. If you do, go on to the next round and things like that at the tournament. Mm. So we're prepared to be here for a while, but you're right. I don't think it's going to be easy at all. No. I think it's going to be far from easy. I think it's been me, even just me, the first day here, being in the room, just kind of for hours, not like, taking a break, going and hang out with some of the guys. It was like hours just in the room. You're just like, oh man, this is going to be a mental grind. Yeah. This is going to be a grind, not only physically on the field, but definitely a mental one.
Yeah. I guarantee you every player is going to, at some point, ask each other, you catch anything new on Netflix? I mean, you're going to start hitting that cycle.
Right. Yeah. You're going to have to resort to, I mean, I luckily have a hobby of doing art. So I kind of do my own thing in that sense. And I love doing that. So I kind of have that, I don't look just to technology in a way, thankfully. I mean, I've kind of had to force myself because it's really easy, obviously, to all of us, as we all know. So, but yeah, no, it is. I mean, again, there's only so much you can do. It's crazy.
You're going to have a whole solo show done by the end of this thing.
Oh man, we'll see. We'll see what comes out of this.
Are you drawing, or you bring paints and everything? What are you doing now? I want to know.
I love to draw, man. Yeah, I love drawing. I've always loved it, but I got back into it during the quarantine, staying at home. I was like, it's kind of like here where you're just like, oh, you kind of have to think about some things to keep your mind busy and to stimulate, but not only with technology. I'm like, because obviously that's an easy go-to for anybody, but I just, taking breaks from it, it's always nice.
Yeah, well, I first couple days it went viral with the food with MLS and a couple people rebelling. I just want you to let me know, has the food gotten better?
You know what? It has. I don't. Yeah, I'm not sure. Obviously, we're one of the later teams to come in, so you're right. I didn't see that part of things personally, so I can't say to that. But it hasn't been that bad.
Okay.
Yeah, that part's been okay. Yeah. So, yeah, we haven't had too bad of an experience.
A step above airplane.
Step above airplane.
Okay.
I think what. I'm a big fan of salmon, and the salmon's been okay, and the salmon's been pretty good. But I can't hate too much.
That's what I like to hear. Okay, so with all this in mind, and with a couple players, teammates, such not showing up, did you ever contemplate not going?
Well, if you spoke to my girlfriend yesterday, that oh my god, she was furious that we were that we were doing this. But me again, I do miss the game. Do I think that this is right? It's tough. I'm in the middle. I think where most players are. Is it the safest? Probably not. But do I love the sport and do I want to get back to playing? Of course.
Right.
You know what I mean? So you're kind of, I'm in the middle. And again, I think everybody is in a different situation. Someone like Bella, who has, his wife is pregnant, and we have a couple guys on our team that have had a similar situation. So it is tough. People who have families, they're leaving. I'm technically just with my girlfriend and things like that. So it's, I guess it's a little bit easier for me to just, go, all right, I'm just going to go to Orlando, do my job, and then I'll see you in a month, but for other guys, it's a little bit different.
I don't think you have it much easier. You have to decide between.
Yeah, no, it's hard in a different way.
Yeah, you're deciding between a quarantine with singer-actress Becky G or hanging out at a coffee bar with one of your teammates. I don't think you have it much easier.
I know, right? Yeah, man, I know. It's so tough. It's tough.
Well, the MLS has tried to sort of involve stakes with money prizes and later tournament berths and such. But now that you're there and you've talked to your teammates, will winning this tournament actually mean something to you guys? Is winning it as much as just getting back out there?
Again, I think we were all, especially in the beginning, very excited that this was another opportunity to, to win something, to compete again, to come together and just play and, maybe hope that we can continue some sort of league after this tournament.
Yeah. Even
though chances are it's not looking, it doesn't look bright.
Yeah.
But I think it's an opportunity for us to win, and I think that, we're definitely excited about that part. You know what I mean? So, for me, on an individual standpoint, I think it'll be good. Again, it's just like, it's the safest.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that's just that's the little cloud that's kind of hanging over us.
Sure.
No pun intended.
Well, today you have it. No matter who wins, though, you did get to do this awesome Back to the Future promo video in a DeLorean as Marty McFly. So I consider you to be the real winner. Whose idea was making that video?
Oh man, our Brendan Hannon. He is awesome with those ideas. He's been great. He called me up. It's funny because obviously we were in quarantine stage, and I was watching. It just so happens that 2 days before he texted me, I watched all three as like a marathon, all three of the movies.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking during the movie, just like a kid, like, oh, I wonder what it's like to actually be in the car.
Yeah.
I'm sure as we all did. Mm-hmm. And when he texted you that, I was over the moon, dude. It was crazy. I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. I was excited for that.
Yeah, well worth it just for that.
For sure.
I did want to know, with players on the bench having to wear masks, I played soccer as a kid, and it was like such an intense sport, as far as running. And can you catch your breath if you have to put on a mask immediately when you get on the sideline?
Yeah, no, it's tough. Even just walking around with it, I think you do get used to it. Like I compare it to when I first started wearing the mask. Even just whenever you go out to the grocery store or whatever, it does take getting used to. I can only imagine. At first I thought we were gonna have to play in them, and I was like, this is. this is too much. I mean, there's probably no chance, especially in this Orlando weather.
Yeah.
I mean, there's absolutely zero, unless you just want us all walking around on the field, just, hunched over, hands on knees. But I mean, as far as the bench, I think if you're sat down, I don't think it'll be too much of an issue. But if you have to start jogging and, or when you immediately get off the field and you're out of breath, I mean, I'm sure it'll be tough.
Mm-hmm.
So again, yeah, we're definitely not going to play under the most ideal scenario.
Yeah, and you mentioned Carlos Vela out for LAFC. Will the rivalry game against the Galaxy, will that still, is that still going to be what it usually is? Is it still going to have that intensity?
I mean, I think when it comes down to it, I think when kickoff happens and we all look at each other and, on the other side of that line is that badge. And of course it'll, well, at least for me, because I've taken part in so many of the rivalry games, I think will surface, that tension and
mm-hmm.
Any chance to beat LAFC will always be a chance I want to take, But again, yeah, whoever plays, it shouldn't matter that Carlos plays or not. It's about a team thing, and this is an opportunity for us. So we have to take it. Especially for our fans, for people watching back home, it's only right that we give it all.
I did talk to someone playing in the women's tournament now, and she said that there was some sound for televised. I mean, do you know if they're going to be piping in anything audience-wise?
That's a good question. I don't. Nobody said anything to me personally,
mm-hmm.
but I'm assuming just. I know the games in the Premier League. I think you have the option. I think for us, maybe just considering how or where the games are going to be played. It's just. It's obviously going to be an empty stadium. Not much around us. The people know we're in Orlando. I don't know. I would assume that I think they would put on some noise, just because I think unless people want to hear, maybe the screaming, it's more intimate. It depends on the viewer. You know what I mean? What type of experience you want.
It's funny you brought up the Premier League. You played there at such a young age, and some of your progress was actually kind of hurt because of mono, because of a virus.
Yeah, no, I know. I tend to forget about that. It's crazy.
Did you feel those effects later in your life? Like, I know a lot of people are nervous about that with coronavirus, that it's not just the few months that you have it, that you're gonna. Do you feel any of the effects?
Yeah, that's the problem, right? I haven't really even thought of that. Like, you actually reminded me. I didn't even know that could even be like something that carries on with you, but with COVID, we don't know, we don't have those answers. So that's kind of like the most unsettling part too, where it's like, I don't know if this is the safest because, okay, I know, maybe guys that get it aren't going to die, but it's like, what happens later? Like, will their lung capacity be affected? Will they have symptoms later? I've seen people that have, obviously I check the news and stuff that, people have been interviewed and they have 100 days plus of symptoms. And you're just like, could I be one of those people? You don't know. Yeah. Okay. There could be 100 people that, asymptomatic, but then there's that one where it's like, it's really, really bad. So it's so much up in the air. That's why, it's a tough one, man. Yeah. It really is.
Well, the big signing during the offseason for the Galaxy and MLS in general was Javier Hernandez, who was only able to play 2 games of MLS before the work stoppage. Is it difficult for him to get situated with his new teammates because of all this? Like, do you think it's much more difficult?
Well, I think it's not ideal, but I think he's done all that he can, and that, he's done everything that's been asked of him. And, I think he's been a good addition, on and off the field. And again, he hasn't really had any real chance to kind of gel with everybody. The game on Tuesday will be our first game, since we played Vancouver at home back in March. That's like, and we haven't even played a friendly against anybody. We've only played against ourselves. We haven't even really got to 90 minutes yet. So it's like, in that sense, of course, we absolutely want to do our best in this, and there's no excuses. But again, the preparation, it's not your ordinary preseason.
How did you stay fit during all of it?
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. It was very limited resources, especially in the beginning, because obviously you're very scared at that point. Because when the stay-at-home order kind of came in California, you're just like, oh my God, like what is going to happen? So even just kind of doing things in the street was like a stretch. but as time went on and people started to kind of, really follow the protocols, and it felt a little bit safer to just even go outside. I resorted to just running on the street.
Yeah.
It was crazy, man. I mean, it kind of went back to the basics. You didn't really have a choice, so.
No.
Yeah, one thing's for sure, we'll never forget this time.
No. Well, we brought up the happy signing of Javier Hernandez. I have to ask, because people want to know, has anyone heard from Zlatan since he left?
You know what? To be honest with you, no, not at all. I mean, that once he said he didn't even say goodbye to us, but he once he posted something on Instagram, I think that was it.
Yeah.
That was, and well, I mean, that's just him.
Yeah, he's not a chill dude.
He's an interesting character for sure.
Not chill. On your social media, you've been very vocal with your support for the Black Lives Matter movement and the horrific after the horrific killing of George Floyd. And MLS has been encouraging any players to make a statement. But I was super disappointed to see the league call off the national anthem, citing it's because fans aren't going to be there and it wasn't needed. Do you think it's that, or do you think it's them avoiding the kneeling dilemma?
I mean, yeah, this is the first that I hear of this. I didn't even know. I think we're going to have a meeting about this, just to be ready for anything that. So I guess we're not doing the national anthem. I definitely believe strongly, in what's happening in the movement of Black Lives Matter. So it's in any way that I can support my, my brothers and sisters who are Black. I mean, I'm going to do it. If kneeling is the way to do that, then that's something that I will exercise. You know what I mean? But again, I'm not sure where their head was with all this, but yeah, I'm definitely in support of anything that would definitely, make their voices louder.
Yeah, man, you're from San Francisco. You're the heart of protesting.
Dude, diverse, man.
Yeah.
I know, the heart of I know, man. Yeah, it's it's definitely a shame of what's happening. But if we definitely all have to just we have to be change, man. If we want to see it, we have to be it, and in any way we can. Even just seeing a couple of the guys put out MLS as Black. I think yesterday they released it. I think it's a foundation or an organization that a lot of the Black players in this league have put together, and I think it's awesome. And one of my good friends, Sean Johnson, I think is one of the leaders in it, and I commend him for doing that. I think it's inspired a lot of people just to really realize that they have a voice. I think it's great.
Yeah, and at a very young age, like we said, you had some stops at the Premier League, moving to Europe in your teens.
Yeah,
we know racial issues have plagued the sport there. Was that something you noticed? I mean, it's such an integral time of your life.
Yeah, no, totally. I've heard coaches say some brutal things. I'm not going to say who or what they said, but it's been there, and again, it's because I'm white or my skin color is not Black. I've been able to whatever, like, you hear it, but you don't have to really deal with it. I think that's an important part of the conversation, is that we all have to deal with it. At this point, we're an important part of the conversation now. We've always have been, but I think now it's like you have to wake up.
Well, what can soccer do in general to be better when it comes to diversity or a racial divide? Is there something that you see in the sport as far as outreach? Obviously, you said the MLS is Black movement.
Yeah, no, I think just keep, building a platform and just getting everybody involved, especially I think a big one is fans really supporting Black players, and they shouldn't walk into a field or go on social media and ever be scared of, getting racially abused. And there's so many ways of doing that. And I think for fans, I think that's a huge part of it, especially in Europe. I've seen a lot of players getting, racially slurred, and I mean, it's incredible. It's like that should never, ever happen. Yeah. So I think if we just keep pushing the message at, Black, white, Hispanic, I think that's the most important thing that we can do. Just keep the message alive.
Sure.
Just because it's very unfortunate what happened to George Floyd, but of course life goes on. But we have to keep that message alive. When he changed, and it's unfortunate what happened. But and it shows up everywhere, whether it's police brutality, racially slurred, and from your own friends or from visiting fans. It's like it's everywhere. It's in government. We got to speak loud, man. We got to speak loud.
Well said. So let's end with something stupid. We brought up your girlfriend earlier. You've been with Becky G, singer, for 4 years. I want to see how well you know her. I'm going to mention a song title, and you tell me if it's an actual Becky G song or if it's something I just made up.
All right, I love it.
Okay, here we go. The first one, Lovin' So Hard. Is that a real Becky G title or something I just made up?
I think that's made up.
Sebastian. Sebastian, I am sorry. That is a true Becky G title.
Oh, God, she's going to kill me.
All right, we're 0 for 1.
How old was she when she did that?
Listen, I'm not here to tell you the age. I'm here to tell you if it's a real song or not.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, here we go. Number 2 is Hold Me Tight, Hold Me Tonight. Is that a real Becky G song or something I just made up?
Okay, that can't be.
Okay, you got that one. You're 1 for 1.
Okay.
That is something I made up. And listen, if any pop stars are listeting, they could definitely steal the title.
That's actually not bad.
Thank you.
Hold me tight, hold me tonight. That's not bad.
Okay, the next one is Cece.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. That is definitely her song.
Okay.
Nice. That was good. You threw me off there.
All right, good. 2-1. Todo Cambio. Is that a real title?
Todo Cambio. Yes, I love that song. Yeah, that was like when she first started doing Spanish.
Yes, very, very first. So good. We're on a roll here. We started slow. Here's the next one. Plata, plata, plata.
No chance.
I wish it was though. I wish it was.
Great. I'm gonna pitch that to her.
Thank you. All right. Here's another one. Break a Sweat.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, Break a Sweat is a hit. Yeah, it's a hit.
I remember that one. That was one of her younger days, but for sure.
Yeah, that was a hit. All right, La Vida Loca.
These are getting great. No, that is absolutely not her song. Great song though. I think
it is Ricky,
but not a different artist.
Ricky Martin. Well, congratulations. You did very well. You got 6 right. I thought we were in.
I passed.
Yeah. Oh, you big time. I thought we were in trouble when you missed the first one.
90%.
My God. All right. Well, very good job. Please, as a favor, stay safe, be healthy there. We are all rooting you on.
Thank you, brother.
Not only for the win. I think that most of the sports world is rooting you on to show either we can do this or we can't.
Right.
But the truth is we just want you guys to be safe.
I really appreciate it. Thank you for having me on.
After this, I check in with former wrestler and AEW commentator Excalibur. Right now, Feeding America is working tirelessly to ensure our most vulnerable populations, like students who are out of school, the elderly, individuals whose jobs are impacted, and low-income families, continue to have access to food and other needed resources during the COVID-19 pandemic. The Feeding America Food Bank Network is committed to serving communities and people facing hunger in America, and their greatest need is donations and support of local food banks. This podcast is committed to donating a portion of the proceeds from the show to Feeding America, and we hope that you can join us in this effort too. Find out how you can help at feedingamerica.org/COVID-19. Now, here's my conversation with AEW's Excalibur. Well, Excalibur, thank you for talking to me. Normally, we've been friends for a bunch of years, and we are NBA text friends, so I first want to check in with you and see if you're at all excited for what is shaping up to be a very weird NBA tournament. Does this even get you the same feeling as when we text during normal playoffs?
Not really. It's exciting to have basketball back, but, to have 6 games a day played in succession to kind of keep track of is a little weird. But, I guess we'll see how it is once we actually get into it. And
considering we're still like a decent amount away from it and guys are dropping, excuse the expression, but dropping like flies either out of the league purely out of an opt-out or because they're getting sick, none of this stuff to me feels like an actual trophy at the end.
Oh, yeah. It's everybody's... well, not everybody, but there's been a lot of talk about this will be the asterisk season of all asterisk seasons, and I think that's completely true. The same thing's happened with baseball. Like guys are saying no way I'm going to play this year, and so it's going to be really interesting to see what sports look like for the next 6-8 months.
Yeah, well, the last 6 to 8 months, we have been inundated with pro wrestling. I guess we never would have predicted that at the end of the world it would be just cockroaches and pro wrestling. You have had sort of I guess you have to fill me in because we texted a bit, but it's hard to keep track of when you're on, when you're off. You took some time off and then now you're back, correct?
Yes, for basically the month of March, I didn't travel. Prior to that, for those that don't know, I'm part of AEW Dynamite, All Elite Wrestling Dynamite, which is every Wednesday, 8/7 Central on TNT, and it was a weekly touring show. And for the month of March, right before the state of Georgia shut everything down, our crew taped 5 weeks of television in a 18-hour period.
What is going on? As someone who has made an hour of television over a few days, I can't fathom what that was like.
So I was not there for that, but that was the first show that I didn't travel for. And it turned out I missed 5 shows by not traveling for 1 show.
Right.
But by all accounts, it was very hectic. It was very, it was very tough because, wrestling, at the end of the day, it's performance, but there's still injuries. There's still things that, variables that happen. And so, somebody got their nose broken, and then episode 3 had to be completely rewritten, and but we had to just keep going. And so it, by all accounts, was a very surreal experience. But then to just be sitting there and have nothing to do for the next month was also surreal in and of itself. And watching the show that I'd been a part of since we started last October from the sidelines kind of go on without me was, that there was a lot of mixed feelings there.
Yeah, I'm sure. All that stuff was happening so fast. I mean, was there testing with those wrestlers, or was it just like, let's get this done?
So that was March, April. And so that was kind of right when people were starting to figure out like what was going on. And so like there was no tests available to our crew at that point. And so it was more just like, if you have a cough, if you have the sniffles or whatever, just stay home. And, there was thus far, we have not had anybody get sick by being at any of our shows.
That's great.
And so that is, that's, nobody's transmitted anything. And our medical crew, personally speaking, I don't think there's anything I could feel 100% safe about without, a vaccine out there. But the way our medical crew handles everything makes me, and I think everybody, we all feel pretty comfortable when we do go.
And so since you weren't there that tape day where you guys did 5 weeks or whatever it is, now you're back with no true audience? Is that what it is? Who's in the audience now?
So basically, we have the wrestlers that are not wrestling on the episode are sitting at ringside, and AEW is owned by the Khan family. The Khan family also owns the Jacksonville Jaguars, and so we are recording our shows in the Daly's Place Amphitheater, which is adjacent to the football stadium in Jacksonville. And so the Jags kind of employees, friends, and family, they fill out the rest of the crowd. There's basically about 50 people that are kind of in the audience, and they're all spaced out. And so the way it works is that if you are coming backstage, if you are coming into contact with an employee, whether you are a wrestler, a lighting guy, a pyro guy, a rigger, or catering, or security guard, or whatever, you get tested. You get a blood test and then a temperature check every day that you're coming into the building. If you are sitting in the crowd, they are kept apart from everybody else. They're in kind of like the upper bowl area, and those people, they do health surveys and temperature checks.
So crazy. What a weird world. I mean, it's funny, like the irony of you performing now in front of 50 people is how I met you at PWG in Reseda. You are now on television with the same thing, but it has been a long time since, say, a Chris Jericho has wrestled in front of 50 people. What is his reaction to this? Does everyone like it?
Nobody's happy about it, but I think this is the reality, and there's absolutely nothing to be done. It's so much better to be wrestling in front of 50 people than it is no people. The first week, that massive taping in Georgia, we were in Jacksonville, and we did it with absolutely no crowd. And it is bizarre that, as an announcer, I could hear my voice echoing, around the building.
Yeah, it's brutal. You hear every thought in the audience, like it's just a terrible feeling. I know this as someone who did stand up for many years, where there was pretty much 3 or 4 people there. So I feel your pain. I do also want to ask, like with AEW, it's funny because you guys had started the television show not that early. I mean, what was it, 5-6 months before the coronavirus, maybe?
It was October 2nd was the first episode, yeah.
Yeah. So what's it been like building an audience? You guys have still been able to keep good numbers, but now amongst coronavirus and COVID and audibles you never would have predicted, you still have to go out there every week and make a TV show. What has it been like sort of working through it?
That's been, I think, the toughest aspect from a growth standpoint. We've been able to hold steady, but a big part of the growth is the touring business and turning on new fans, getting people, to come to town that they might not know who we are, but they know wrestling's coming, and so they're going to come check us out. And right before the quarantine and everything happened, that was going to be our New York, New Jersey debut. We had sold out the Prudential Center where the New Jersey Devils play. That was going to be a very big, very meaningful swing for us. And, the summer had a lot of very big plans. And so this was going to be our big growth push. And so now, instead of growing, we've been kind of fighting to maintain the level that we were at, which I think the conventional wisdom before the quarantine happened was that there will be no other sports. People will flock to wrestling.
Right.
As it turns out, there were no sports, and people were flocking to news shows because they didn't know what was happening and were scared and wanted to know what was going on. And so we've kind of have this core audience that, can fluctuate by 100,000, 150,000 viewers in either direction on a given week. But we've found that, there was a NASCAR event, and that drew off some people, but the protests, when the coronavirus briefings would happen, those kind of days were actually more consequential in terms of people tuning out.
Yeah.
And so I think there's, people are starved for entertainment, and they are starved for live events, live sports, but I think there's more fear and uncertainty that overwhelms that need for something new.
Yeah, it's weird. And this is, I guess, maybe a Tony Khan question, but maybe it's like Vince McMahon and his WWE business for so long has been a live event company. Like they obviously make a ton of money going around the world. They tour more dates than most casual fans would ever even imagine. Was Tony and AEW, was the idea always to be on the road that much, or was this a TV show?
No, I mean, there had been talk about doing live events, untelevised live events here and there, but primarily this was a TV show. If we're having matches in the ring, they're recorded for a purpose. We're not just going to some random town to just do a match that's never going to see the light of day.
Right. And so much of AEW is about getting the best wrestlers from around the world. So I was wondering if you could tell us about what has been going on about travel. You have wrestlers in Mexico. You have wrestlers from Japan that all show up on the television show weekly. How did that play out with travel bans?
It's been tough. People from Europe or Japan are just kind of stuck in place and will jump on a Zoom call. And the first thing everybody in Europe asks is, hey, have you heard anything? When will we be able to travel back? And to Tony and the company's credit, there's not been a single person that has lost their job.
Right.
Everybody's continued to get paid, whether you've been wrestling every week or you've been at home. And so the company's been very good about that. But the thing is, everybody that is involved in wrestling, maybe not everybody, but 95%, and especially on our roster, is there because they love it and they want to be there and they want to be, performing. They want to be doing these things. And so to just be stuck at home and have no idea of when you'll be able to come back to work, that has been, I know, deeply frustrating for them.
I'm sure. So with these guys missing, I've been able to catch some of the shows, and I've seen some people truly step up in the absence of some of your international superstars. So people like Best Friends and Orange Cassidy and Sammy Guevara, like those guys were really coming through during that time. Did they know that? Was that sort of like a locker room discussion? We need a couple wrestlers to pop up here and really take the spots?
Yes, and I don't think at the time anyone realized how important stepping up in that moment would be. I think everybody that was there for that 5-week taping in one day, I don't think it registered to anybody that you are going to be the only people that we see on our programming for the next month.
Right.
And so there were people that stepped up and stepped into a much more prominent role than they would have been had we had our full complement of our locker room. And those people might have been in much smaller roles had the virus and the quarantine ever happened.
Yeah, like I didn't know who Big Swole was before you guys did that taping for 5 weeks, and now Big Swole's a major female star of the show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the Best Friends, I think, benefited from it. Kip Sabian also. Not to say that it wouldn't have happened eventually, but just, through circumstances, it happened now,
And we mentioned Sammy, who's had a bit of controversy come up from an old tape that resurfaced from a podcast where he said something offensive regarding a female wrestler in the WWE, and you know that's on the lower scale of what's been going on in independent wrestling, to be honest. And I spoke a bit to Big E about it a few weeks ago. And you have been on the independent circuit for quite some time. You've seen each of these wrestlers come through at PWG, one of the most storied independent wrestling federations of all time. Was it shocking to you to see just how many cases, how many women were stepping up to talk about these things?
It was, to me, absolutely shocking and heartbreaking because PWG, you know, part of the deal is we have the best wrestling, but then also the best locker room. A big part of it is chemistry. And if there are guys that are absolutely amazing wrestlers, but are just assholes in their day-to-day life, those guys don't get booked on PWG. And so to know that these guys were good locker room guys, but maybe not the best human being, that was very difficult to kind of come to grips with. And, you know, for my role in PWG, I just go to the show, I do the commentary, and then I head home. I'm not really hanging out socially with a lot of guys. And so I didn't necessarily have that window into it. And so I just kind of knew people from my interactions with them, and who's going to tell you like, oh, I'm a serial killer, you know, or whatever. You know?
I'm a total garbage can. Yeah.
Yeah. And so having all of that one by one just be revealed to me was really distressing. And obviously I'm not the victim here. And there are people that were so brave in coming forward and enduring the slings and arrows of the Twitter and wrestling community and all of that. I can't even imagine that. But just for me personally, I mean, there's, you know, people I've known for almost 20 years that, you know, of course, like, oh yeah, he sleeps around or whatever, but I never thought, I never thought the worst beyond that.
Yeah, and it's true. You at PWG had like a similar schedule to a fan. You would drive up early, you'd help out with stuff, and then announce. Then you drive home to San Diego pretty much right after the show. So I guess, you know, knowing the personal lives of these guys was impossible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there were people that had wrestled for us in the past, and people that I thought I knew very well, and so there was a lot of reflection on my part of what did I know, when did I know it, was there something that I was seeing but being willfully ignorant of, you know. And I think a lot of people that are in the wrestling business went through very similar things, and the more we talked about it, the more we all kind of just realized, like, yeah, these guys were hiding something.
Yeah.
And, you know, so it's like, it's really frustrating for me because these people have no place in our business. I know things have been cleaned up in wrestling from where they were, you know, even 10 years ago, but definitely over 20 years ago and 30 years ago. And, you know, this feels like a setback, but hopefully we can use this as a way to weed these people out and keep the positive people in wrestling.
Yeah. On this topic, the other side of things, a much more inclusive area of work has been AEW. You guys have went out of your way to sort of show that the kind of good old boys wrestling federation isn't necessarily going to happen under your watch and Tony Khan's watch. Wrestlers like Nyla Rose, who is transgender and a champion for the female division of your TV show, as well as really, I think, some of the first openly gay wrestlers. Is it something that is very much in everyone's mind to push that envelope and to make sure that maybe an audience that has been closed off to those things is finally exposed in a positive light in wrestling?
To some degree, but the way that we do it is just, I think we try to be more of a reflection of kind of an inclusive society. So it's never been acknowledged that Nyla is a transgender woman on our television, in our marketing, you know, in our promotion. Like, she has done interviews where she speaks to that personally, but it's never, you know, we've never said that it's our place, that we have to push this and we have to use this in order to, you know, gain some sort of recognition or notoriety. If somebody's gender or sexual orientation is none of our business. And from Tony to us as announcers, if you are there wrestling in our ring, you're there because you deserve to be, not because it's a quota or anything like that. And from day one, a big push of AEW was inclusivity. And so it's not just gender orientation issues. It's also when we were doing live events, we would have sensory rooms for autistic fans to come, and they could still come to the building, get the live event experience, but then be in a place that they felt safe and felt comfortable, which, I mean, not just other wrestling companies, but just other sports.
Yeah.
They don't necessarily have that. And so the marketing line at the very beginning was AEW is for everyone.
Yeah. As someone who watches them week after week, who are you excited to see back now that you're back on television? What wrestlers do you think have stepped up? Who's next in line for AEW?
I think Kip Sabian, he was one of the names that I mentioned that really kind of stepped up, and he proved that he's somebody that can be counted on, not just as, being there, but also rising to the occasion.
Sure.
And I think he's got a very, very bright future in this business, as well as his fiancee, Penelope Ford, who, I think she would admit that when AEW started, she was not among one of the best women on our roster in terms of in-ring performance. Mm-hmm. But over this last few months, she's grown as a performer, not just in her ability, but also in her confidence in herself.
Yeah.
And she had an absolutely fantastic match on our July 1st episode. She challenged for the women's world title. I think it was a match that people were, their fans were excited for it, but, they had their reservations. And she and Penelope Ford and Hikaru Shida absolutely outkick their coverage in that regard. And so I think those two are fantastic. I think the Lucha Brothers, Ray Phoenix and Pentagon Jr., who are two real-life brothers. They were born in Mexico City. Ray Phoenix lives in the States, and Pentagon Jr. lives in Mexico. And they had been traveling for perhaps the last 6-7 years, mm-hmm. with each other every single week. They were constantly in each other's presence. And then 3 months where they couldn't see each other. Yeah. And so I know when they came back to TV and they're able to travel together and things, started feeling kind of like normal again for them, that was really huge. And so it's like they're some of the best in-ring performers that we have, but also just, on a personal level, it makes me feel good that they get to see each other again.
Yeah, well, and not to bring it down to end it, but lastly, with all these COVID cases popping up and obviously the numbers going on an incline again, are there Zoom calls now trying to figure out if you guys can keep doing this week after week?
I'm not involved in those conversations, but I know they're definitely happening. I think we had Boston and Philadelphia dates rescheduled for later this summer, mm-hmm. and we pushed those out till 2021.
Yeah.
And, now the show in Jacksonville, especially with, the cases in Florida skyrocketing, I think everyone is very concerned about that. And I know when the quarantine first started, there was so many conversations about, well, what if we can't do a live show, what are we going to do? And, how do we handle this? And or if we don't have new content to put up, what is the thing? And I think those conversations are most likely being revisited. Not even right now, probably starting weeks ago. And I think there's got to be plans A, B, C, D, E, and F there.
Yeah, because there's wrestlers, people on staff, on screen that are not the age of Kip Sabian and Penelope Ford. There is Jake the Snake Roberts and Jim Ross and people who are in the demographic of those who have to be very careful about what they're getting in front of.
Yes, and, and I think part of what AEW did in terms of testing and, ensuring everyone's safety really makes the older members of our staff feel comfortable coming to work. When we arrive in Jacksonville, basically we're blood tested at the hotel, we get our temperature checked, we do all that. But then after the show is over, we all go back to the hotel. There's food there waiting for us. It's not a completely closed bubble, but when we're in Jacksonville, we're in as much of a bubble as we possibly can. And that, I think, goes a long way to providing reassurance to the people that, and, there are people that are younger people, but, through, medical conditions or whatever, like for myself, there's a big history of heart disease in my family. And so even though I'm, relatively young and healthy, it's still something that's in the back of my mind. So knowing how the company has is done as much as we can to make sure everybody's safe. That goes a long way in making me, and I think everybody else, feel comfortable coming to work.
Great. Well, congrats on being able to go back to television. We're excited to have your voice back on TV, and AEW still rolling along. And stay safe, man. And hopefully we'll get an NBA some sort of playoff in this tournament, or I don't know. As long as Giannis and LeBron are playing, I don't know. I can't be optimistic about it anymore.
It's so weird, and especially with guys dropping out, like you mentioned. I mean, almost on a daily basis. It's like, what is this going to look like? Are we even going to have enough guys to field the 20-team tournament or whatever?
I know the ESPN ticker today was just people testing positive for COVID. I was like, this is not. It's not a health channel, guys. We gotta work. We gotta figure this out. Well, thank you, brother, and we will talk soon.
All right, thank you, man. Appreciate it.
The Sports Bubble is produced and distributed by Treefort Media. The show is executive produced by Kelly Garner, Lisa Ammerman, Matthew Kugler, and me, Jensen Karp. Tom Monahan is our senior audio engineer and sound supervisor, with production and editing by Jasper Leak. Additional production help from Tim Schauer, June Rosen, and Haley Mandelberg. Our theme music is composed by Spilkus. If you've enjoyed what you've heard, please subscribe, rate us, and review us on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts. And please visit feedingamerica.org. If you're able to make a donation, any amount makes a difference, and you can learn more about other ways you can help on their website. For more information on the Sports Bubble, links to the socials, and for show transcripts for our hearing impaired listeners, go to treefort.fm. Be safe and be well. The Sports Bubble is a production of iHeartRadio and Treefort Media. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.